The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need. Live.
Well, hello, welcome to The Locker Room. We're on the night shift tonight. Usually we're on a Sunday between 3 and 5, but obviously some people have different priorities today. Like I had the bingo to go to, and Graham had the football to go to, and Reagan had, I don't know what he had on today. But anyway, so we're here now.
I was eating sausage and mash, Brendan, when it was interesting, but
not
a lot, to be honest, not a lot.
Well, since you're a Tottenham fan, sausage and mash.
I was watching Big Angie the other night as well.
There you go, stop swearing. We're here until 10 o'clock tonight. This is The Locker Room, looking back at the weekend. Now, before we start, right, we're not going to get cut off about 44 times that we done the gig on Friday. I had a full head of hair before I started presenting the show, but now you can see my baldy, but I've got light above me, that's why. Anyway, so we're here until 10 o'clock tonight. You know what to do. You can comment on anything that we're talking about. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Graham was saying to me we're on Twitch. Whatever Twitch is. I must be getting old. I don't know what I'm not down with the kicks now, you know. So we're going to look back at the football, and also we're going to look back at Scotland's defeat in the rugby against France last night as well. Yep. So first of all, before we go to Saturday and Sunday, let's go to Sunday and work our way back the way. Told you I went to school. So first up will be Hearts Malcolm out. Now, I know you were at the game, Graham. You did well to not swear off air, try not to swear on air, but you said it was a very dull game. First of all, did your son enjoy his experience here?
Parts of it. He enjoyed the crisps during half-time, and I think he enjoyed parts of the game, but yeah, it wasn't great. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to lie or sugarcoat. It was a terrible game. I mean, I thought Kilmarnock defended very well. I knew what they were going to do. They were going to defend very deep, which they did. Again, as were last week, really impressed with Robbie D, Stuart Finlay at the back. Thought they were excellent defensively. They probably offered more of a goal threat going forward than we did. Had a couple of kind of chances in the first half. We gave away far too many free kicks in dangerous areas that allowed them to get the ball in the box, but we managed to defend it quite well. Xander Clark had a couple of really decent saves, but we were just everything I didn't want. And I said before the game, I wanted us at home to play in the front foot, play quickly, but it was just slow. It was the same as, and I said this on Twitter, you could basically copy and paste the first half of Rosenborg and the first half of St Johnstone last week, and that was the same today. It was just far too slow, far too predictable, no pace really going forward. It was just passive, going back the way and sideways. I hope that second half would be better, but it was the same. I mean, it was just really poor. We the last 10 minutes, we got a bit better when we put Liam Boyce on. We brought on Aidan Denham, who looked really good. We brought on the new Costa Rican guy, Kenny Vargas, who looked really lively as well. But we didn't look anywhere near threatening. We didn't cause enough problems going forward. And that's 3 games now that I don't think we played that well in. And, you know, we got a win last week. We got a goal against Rosenborg. We never looked at scoring today. It was very, very poor, and we need to, as I said to you guys before, if we play like that on Thursday, we're going to be out, because that was not good enough. We do have new players in the team. They do need to take time to gel, but they've got to be better, because that was very, very poor today.
Is that a concern, Graham, going into the Rosenborg game on Thursday night?
Yeah, because I know it's only the first home game of the season, but I expected better. I expected us to play in the front foot, to be playing quicker, better tempo, and it was just nothing. It was just slow. Like the first 10 minutes of the game, it was got the ball in midfield, passed it back to Frankie Kent, passed it to Kai Rolls, who went forward, and then there was no movement, so we just passed it back again. I actually think at one point in that first half, Xander Clark had more touches than Lauren Shankland. It was just far too negative. And I've seen a few folk as well comment that it was like watching a Nielsen team again, which I do get because it was very poor. But, I mean, I think I've got to try and word this carefully. So UEFA are watching. But I think that McAvoy and Naismith are trying to implement a style, but it's not quite happening yet. We do have to get the players up to full speed. I thought Tagawa, who started today, I felt sorry for him. I was watching him. He made a lot of really good runs forward, but he didn't get the ball. So there are things that we need to work on. But we've got to be better on Thursday. I don't think Rosenborg are a great side. We made them look really good last week. They're not a great side. This is the tie we should be looking forward to and winning. But playing like that today, we're not going to go through. We have to score. And today we never looked likely. Maybe, like I said, the last 10 minutes we looked a little bit better when boys came on. I really like Aidan Denham. He's a young lad, but he was really, really good when he came on. He controls that midfield. But it was just very negative. There was nothing really that I could look at and say, that was a good performance. There were some, I said on Twitter after the game that it was really poor. There was only one positive, and that was Frankie Kent. But on reflection, I kind of looked at it and thought, well, do you know what? Denham was really good. Boyce was really good. Vargas looked really good. It's another clean sheet as last week, but we've got to do a lot more going forward because that just wasn't good enough.
I think the biggest thing for Steve Naismith for me, Graham, right? He talks about giving the media, but see, football's dire. You know what I mean? I could come on the show and say I'm going to play front attacking based football, but that's not what comes down the park. Look at Barry Robson at Aberdeen. He says it, and the actually go and do it. Stephen Naismith says it, and I watched the game on Thursday. I thought on Thursday that I thought apart from the Shankland goal, I didn't think they offered too much.
No, we didn't. And I think I went to the training event a few weeks ago at Tynecastle, and I was listening to Frankie McAvoy, Stephen Naismith talking and the way they wanted to play, and I thought, yeah, that's quite positive. But so far, it is very, very early. I'm not going to be too critical yet, but it is very much a Robin Nielsen type performance where it's just possession for possession. We must have had a lot of possession, but it didn't go anywhere. And that is a worry. We've got to be better than that. I'm genuinely worried about Thursday night because, as I say, I don't think Rosenborg are a great side. But we've got to do more going forward.
I just think that if you've not got Shankland, you're basically worried who's going to score the goals because I just think you don't look like you're going to score, Graham. I'm sorry to say that, but you really don't look as if you're going to score a goal, and that's a big worry because I think often as you know as well, like see when teams go to Tynecastle and play against us, it should be a very difficult game. But like you say, it was boring to watch. It wasn't a good game. I mean, you should be going along to Tynecastle and seeing Hearts play Kilmarnock and score a few goals and play a good match, but you didn't see that today.
I do think I don't know if Graham and yourself, Reagan's got to agree with me here, but because Graham was saying it's a poor Hearts performance at home, and I agree with you because obviously when Celtic, Kilmarnock and Rangers goes to Tynecastle, they win, but then Hearts make it a very difficult game. But do you feel as though the team's a bit kind of up? There's a lot of fighting going on at the moment between Frank McAvoy and Stephen Naismith off the park. And do you agree that they should have got that sorted first? Like who's the main man and all that,
Yeah, what I would say to that, Mike, was I think it's a bit of mixed signals from both of them. I mean, that can be good, Graham. I mean, I don't know if you see it today at the game, but is one person taking more control than the other? Or what's the situation like?
I listened to a Hearts podcast last week, and Craig Gorm was on it, and he said that the players are in they know exactly who's in charge. They know exactly who's basically picking the team and doing all the hard work behind the scenes. And I was watching the touchline today, and Stephen Naismith was furious at how slow we played. I could see it in him. He was trying to get us to go forward and play quicker. Naismith, for me, is the one that is doing most of the work. McAvoy is pretty much sitting back. I think it's really mainly for European games that McAvoy's taken the role because obviously Naismith can't because he's not got his badges. But, I mean, I think today it was a case of when I saw the team lineup, I actually quite liked it. I thought it was quite attacking. We had like that kind of Alex Lowry, Lawrence Shankland, Oda, and we had Tagawa up front. I actually quite liked the balance of it, but we just played far too slow. I actually thought Alex Lowry was very poor today. He gave the ball away far too many times. He's not, what I've noticed about him as well, he's not the quickest. He's a good footballer, but he's not got a lot of pace. And I saw it last week as well with Shankland. He looked very frustrated. He wasn't going to let the ball. He wasn't getting many chances. It was the same last week. He scored, but he wasn't really getting involved. It was the same today. He looked very frustrated, like the whole Arch crowd was.
Yeah.
I think it will take time for the new players and that to settle in. As I say, we brought Kenny Vargas off the bench, the Costa Rican, who looked really good. He looks really quick. He's got some great wee touches.
So Kenny Vargas, is he to replace Gianelli then? Is he, what kind of player is he in?
To be honest, I think Tagawa's the one that's going to replace Gianelli because he's basically taking Gianelli's shirt. But Vargas is very good technically. He's got a lot of pace. He can play out wide. He can play up front. Same as Tagawa as well. But they've both got pace, which is what we've lacked going forward. And I thought he showed a lot of nice touches when he came on. He never gave up. He pressed and harried. Something we lacked in the first half. I felt sorry for Tagawa. He wasn't really getting a lot of the ball, a lot of service. As I said, I was watching him, and he made some really good runs, and he wasn't getting the ball. There was a couple of times Kingsley put the ball through, but it was far too hard. So there are things that we need to work on. But going into Thursday, I am concerned because if we play like that today, we're not going to get through. We have to score. Now, when we played Zurich last season, we were 2-1 down at this stage as well. And the first half of that game was the best I've seen us play for a long time. I want that performance again, but we have to show a bit more attacking threat because today there was nothing. And I heard Naismith after the game talking, and he was basically saying that some parts of the game he liked. I disagree. I didn't think there was a lot to like about the performance. As I said, there were some players that were good. I have to say, right now, at the moment, and I know it's only a couple of games in, Frankie Kent looks an absolute brilliant signing at centre-back. He dominated in the air. He was absolutely superb, didn't put a foot wrong. But we need more going forward. I thought Alex Lowry was very poor. Tammy Devlin was his normal kind of destructive self. Haring tried to get on the ball, but there was just... One thing I never thought I would say about Hearts playing Kilmarnock at Tynecastle is Kilmarnock were comfortable. I never felt at any point Kilmarnock were in any danger of losing that game, and that's a worry for me. And I've got to say as well, and this is another concern that I've got, and again, I know it's only 2 games in, but at the moment, I'm actually enjoying the way Ross County are playing than the way Hearts are playing. Ross County looked really good. When they played Celtic last week, I thought they were excellent. Didn't deserve to be 3-0 down. And then yesterday, they could have absolutely hammered St Johnstone. They look like they've got a bit of pace about them. They look like they've got energy. Today, we didn't look like we had any of that. There was just...
I said to you last season, Malcolm Mackay should be the manager. You didn't listen to me.
And I still don't. But I mean, I think there was a lack of energy today. There was nothing really... There was a few times in the first half that Frankie Kent got the ball, and I had a really good seat. I was in the Gorgie stand, so I could see everything. And there was no movement. There was nobody moving, and he had to go back the way. And that's something that Naismith and McAvoy got to work out. They need more movement. They need more pace. But as I say, when I seen the team lineup, I thought, I'm happy with that. But it didn't work. I mean, I failed to believe that Stephen Naismith and Frankie McAvoy didn't know how Kilmarnock were going to set out and set up. They were very defensive, very rigid, and we had no idea how to break them down. And they were, as I say, they were comfortable. And that's a worry because nobody should have come out of Tynecastle and be comfortable. I can't think of any save their keeper made, and at home, that's not good enough.
Now, I would ask you the question then, do you think that maybe you fans were too critical of Robbie Nielsen, or do you think it was teams up? Because Robbie Nielsen was beating teams like Kilmarnock at home time after time, but you just weren't happy with the style of play.
Nah, it was time to go. He'd run his course, and when he got sacked, I mean, to be honest, I said at the time, when we lost to St Mirren at home, I didn't expect him to get sacked. I thought that Joe Savage and Ambridge and that would keep him on, but he got sacked a day later. But it was the right call. He was losing his grip on third place, and this is a game that I've said before. I have never agreed with the decision to bring Stephen Naismith and Frankie McAvoy in anyway. I think we should have gone... There were better managers out there we could have got, but instead we've done the cheap option, and I've always said that. I've never hidden that fact. So they are under huge pressure because if they don't get results, then there'll be questions asked, and rightly so. I'll be asking them as well. Yeah, I mean, sorry, Regan, on you go.
How long do you think they'll get, Graham?
It's a tough question. I think you need to see how the first round of fixtures go. I said this last week. We've got a really good run of fixtures. We don't play Celtic and Rangers till October. Today should have been a game that we're looking at and going, we're at home. Yes, Kilmarnock are a good side. They did well last week. But it's got to be 3 points. We didn't win it, but we didn't lose it, which is probably a positive. But we've got to be beating these teams at home. I mean, Kilmarnock actually seem to come to Tynecastle. They beat us last season as well. Know how to play against us.
We did 1-0.
So, yeah, I think they're going to get time, and I think they have to get time. But I have said this on another podcast I was on last week. One of my predictions for the season, I was asked, give me a random out there prediction, and I did say that come the end of May, only 2 managers in place now will still be there at the end of the season, and that was Michael Beale and Brendan Rodgers. I don't think Naismith and McAvoy will last the season. I hope I'm wrong, because if I am, it means they've done a good job. But I just think there's a massive risk there appointing these guys, because last season when they came in, yes, we did well end of the season. You know, we played well against Celtic, hammered Ross County, beat Aberdeen. There were positives there, but they only won 2 games out of 7. That for me was not enough to get them the job full time, and they've got it anyway. So they are under massive pressure, and games like today don't help. There was a frustration within the crowd, rightly so, because nothing was happening. But I'm going to try and take positives about the fact that we've kept a clean sheet. We've not got beat. It's 4 points out of 6, and performances of Frankie Kent, young Aidan Denham, who again I thought was excellent, only 19, but he's a really, really good player. So there are positives there, but we've got to do better. And Thursday now becomes a massive game. You know, I'm assuming they'll probably train tomorrow and Tuesday, maybe have a day off on Wednesday or something, I don't know, but we've got to be better, because that today was nowhere near good enough.
Do you think that, I mean, you touched upon it there, Graham. Do you think the Hearts board will, in a couple of weeks, start to regret the appointment of McAvoy and Naismith?
I don't think it'll be a couple of weeks. I think what I would probably say is I would probably give it till around November, December, and see where we are. You know, if we're struggling and we're not in that top 3, which we really should be. I've said this before as well. And listen, all fans are biased, I know that. But I genuinely do believe that Hearts still have the 3rd best squad outside the Old Firm. We've got to go and prove that, though. And at the moment, we're not really doing that. It is going to take time, as I said, for these players to gel. We've got a lot of new players in. I still think we need at least one more. We need another right back in for competition for Atkinson. And I think as well, based on today, I think we need another creative midfielder as well, because there was really nothing going forward that I thought, yeah, this is good. So I think we need at least 2 more players before the window shuts in 2 weeks' time. But I think I would have to give it till at least November, December before I think they need to get sacked. We have to see where we are then. There's a lot of games to play. I'm hoping that we're still in European football, but after last week and after what I saw today, I'm not overly confident. But Thursday's massive now. It's going to be a massive crowd at Tynecastle. We have to come out quickly. We have to come out and put on a real show. If we get an early goal on Thursday, I think we'll win the tie, because I genuinely don't think Rosenborg are up to much. I mean, that's a side that we're struggling against Crusaders. If we can't knock them out, then that's poor, because they're not a good side.
One more question about my Frank McAvoy and Stephen Naismith. Do you think it was? Do you think it backfired on the Hearts fans and all that? Why it's been leaked to the media and as well? Because if they were fighting, you would rather keep it in house instead of the fans and also the media kind of like finding it. And also if they're getting beat, well, obviously they pick up a point, but say they get beat 1-0 to get home, then you and other Hearts fans will be saying, well, were they supporting McAvoy today, or were they supporting Naismith today? You know what I mean? So every week you're starting to wonder, well, were they playing for McAvoy today or Naismith, or were they playing for the jersey, or, you know, whatever?
I had another show yesterday, which I won't name, but they still seemed very clueless, and these are apparently really good pundits that know the game, really. But they still don't seem to understand the whole McAvoy. They don't seem to understand the whole McAvoy Naismith thing yet. They were getting their knickers in a twist about stuff. I mean, it's really not that complicated, to be honest. We know who's in charge, and the most important thing is, as Craig Gordon said, the players know who's in charge. They know who's the one picking the team, who's giving the instructions. As long as they know who it is, then that's fine. But there is going to be an element of doubt that, and I know a lot of people outside of Hearts are looking at this going, it's not a great look, is it? And listen, I understand that. And if I wasn't a Hearts fan, I might laugh at it myself. But I understand kind of what they're trying to do. But I'm going to ask you guys a question, right? Because I've heard this numerous times.
There you go.
Reagan, when you saw that interview on Sky, if you saw it a few weeks ago, with McAvoy and Naismith, as an outsider, what was your thoughts on that? Did you find it cringeworthy, embarrassing? What was your thoughts on that whole interview?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it, just from a point of view that I thought it was quite awkward for the two of them involved, because you looked at it, Frank McAvoy spoke first, and then Naismith was just chipping in, and then Naismith was talking for a bit, and he was just chipping in. So you're like, this is just a little bit awkward, and I think it reminded me of the whole experiment that Ross County did last 2 seasons ago with the whole joint manager situation. So Kettlewell and Stephen Ferguson, but no, I'm not a big fan of it, Graham, to be honest. And I don't think that I'm a big fan of giving managers a chance like Naismith, but I just don't think if you're doing something like that, it can be put out with that either. No, because it's okay going for the cheap option. I mean, everybody was laughing at Celtic 2 years ago when Ange Postecoglou never these badges, but the difference that I think that you can clearly see is that everybody bought into the style of play with Ange, and they bought in with the tempo and everything else. But with Naismith, I just don't think they are. And I was going to ask you one more question. Do you think the squad's improved from last year? Because I'm going to be quite real here, Graham. I've not actually watched Hearts this season yet, so I don't know if the squad's improved. So I'm just asking you as a punter.
To be honest, listen to some of the pundits I listened to last night. They don't watch Hearts a lot either, to be honest. But I think it generally has improved. I think we have strengthened really well in position we needed to. As I say, Frankie Kent, for me, from Peterborough, has been outstanding so far. We've really lacked a dominant centre-half since Craig Halkett's got injured. And I think Halkett is due back next month at some point. I think him and Frankie Kent could make a great partnership. I really like the look, as I said, I really like the look of Tagawa, and I really like the look of Vargas. I think Callum Nunehoff, the midfielder brought in, who didn't play today, he was all right against St Johnstone last week. We need to find his best position. I think Kenny Vargas will be really good when he's up to speed. And Alex Lowry, even though he wasn't great today, there is definitely a player in there, but he needs to get up to speed. I think if we bring a right back in and another creative midfielder, then I think we'll be absolutely fine. But they are going to take time to gel. It's like any squad, when you bring in a number of players, you need to take time to gel. It's very difficult to make it happen straight away. But I do think we've got a really good squad there. We are still missing. We didn't have Benny Beringame today, who played on Thursday, and I love Benny, but he shouldn't have started on Thursday. He was very poor. We still don't have Alec Cochrane. He was suspended. We still don't have Craig Gordon and Craig Halkett. We do have a very good squad. I mean, I'm happy with the squad, but they just need to gel a bit better and need to find some way of making us more attacking, because when I listened, as I said, when I was at the training session and listened to McAvoy and Naismith where they want to play, I walked out there thinking, yeah, I like that. They want to play attacking on the front foot, pressing. I've not seen that yet. It is only a couple of games in, but I've not seen that yet. We've got to get better. And as I say, it's a massive, massive game on Thursday. We then play Partick in the Cup next week, which we should win. And then it's Dundee away. So we've got a lot of games to play. And I do think when we got up to speed, we'll be better. But today was just, it was a poor game. But I do want to say as well, because I don't want to make this about Hearts, I do want to say Kilmarnock were good. You know, they were very diligent, very resilient. As I say, at the back, they look very solid defensively. I mean, They've kept a clean sheet last week, kept a clean sheet this week. I do think Marley Watkins and Matty Kennedy will add a bit more going forward. I think for me, if I was a Kilmarnock fan, I'd want a little bit more threat up front. They brought in the laddie Vassell during the second half, didn't really get involved that much. But I do think Kilmarnock will be, I don't know if they'll be top 6, but they won't be anywhere near relegation. They do look a really solid unit, which is what you expect from a Derek McKenna side. But, they've got away delighted with a point. I'm probably frustrated in not taking more because he did create the better chances.
Graham, first of all, the Kilmarnock get labouring for their decent away support today, yeah.
They got, from what I could see, they only had like one part of the stand behind the goal.
Okay.
Decent crowd. I know that our friend Laurie was there. I don't know what the crowd was, but they had a healthy following. They were quite quiet, but I mean, to be honest, they were very solid. I mean, I think probably a lot of folk might have thought going away to Tynecastle, difficult game. Hearts are playing on Thursday night. How will they respond? And I thought they did well. They probably created the better chances. They looked a bit more threatening. We gave away far too many set pieces on every time. I don't know how many fouls Gary Devlin gave away. I love Devlin, but geez, the amount of fouls we gave away, and I thought eventually they're going to score from one of these. They were very unlucky. There was one chance, I think it was the second half. I was right in line with it. I can't remember who hit it, but just outside the box, and he was very, very close to getting top corner, and I thought, that's a worry. But, I mean, to be fair to Kilmarnock, they were very good. They were, as I said, defending very well. I thought midfield, they were really good. But I just think, at the moment, if I'm a Kilmarnock fan, they need a bit more going forward. They didn't get in behind us a lot. So I think if you're Derek McKenna, you'll be delighted with a point. But with 2 weeks to go in the window, if they can bring in 1 or 2 strikers, that can make a massive difference. Because I think defensively they're sound. Robbie Dees, Stuart Finland, the other centre back they had, very impressive.
I mean, Reagan, if you were a Kilmarnock fan and Laurie's not on tonight, but you would be delighted with the start with that, because not only did you pick up a point today, but pick up 3 points against Rangers, and they now go on to the Celtic game buoyant with confidence, and that game's at home as well.
So when is the Celtic game? Is that this week?
Next Sunday, yeah.
The League Cup.
Yeah, the League Cup.
Sunday, right? Yeah, I think in terms of Derek, I think the most pleasing thing for Michael is you would regard Rangers and then Hearts at Tynecastle probably 2, if not the biggest fixtures for them.
Yeah.
Because as Derek McInnes stated last week, they've not bet Rangers at home since Steve Clark was in charge. And then in terms of them going to Tynecastle, I know that they bet them last season in the Viaplay Cup, as Graham would know. But I think when you look at it, everybody always says it's a tough match at Tynecastle. So I think when Derek reflects on it, he'll say that it was a very good start to the season, because if you'd have said to him, you're going to get 4 points from a home game against Rangers and then an away game at Tynecastle, I think he'd have stabbed your hand off for that, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Reagan, do you think Killie could be a top 6 club, or do you think them be just a little bit away from that?
I can't remember what I predicted. I need to go and listen back to my podcast, but I think I put them 7th because simply for the fact I think that last season was the kind of season for Derek and probably the Commander board where they thought safety at all costs, just get it safe. And then this year they've got the SPL money that they can build on it. They've brought in some decent players, and they've got what's his name, Armstrong, who I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he was a threat today. To be honest, he looked really good again.
Yeah, I think he. One of the big things that really disappoints me is the plastic pitch. I think they could play some great football on the grass. I think that's the only thing that ruins it a bit for Commander. But yeah, I think in terms of Derek, I think he'll be hoping for I'm not going to say they'll get top six, but I think it's a realistic possibility, Graham.
But before we move on, guys, Graham, big game on Thursday night against Hearts. Big game for Hearts on Thursday night. I take it you'll be wanting a Hearts win, but I take it you'll be wanting a lot better performance than that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's all about winning. To be honest, I would like a performance. I would like to see something that gives me hope for the future. But if we win, then great. Last week I was disappointed because I thought we let Rosenborg dictate the game and dominate the game. They had two. The boy Nelson on the left-hand side was causing problems, but the laddie, the 16-year-old in midfield, controlled the game until Peter Haring came on and then just suffocated the life out of him. But I'm hoping at home with a massive crowd that we'll get a better performance, and I'm sure that Naismith and McAvoy are going to be working hard on the training ground this week to make us a bit more. And to be fair, when I listened to Naismith earlier on, he did talk about the fact we need to have more of an attacking threat. They all know that. Today was nowhere near good enough, and I expect us to be better on Thursday. I mean, I'll say this now. I'll be disappointed if we don't go through. Because apart from the couple of goals that Rosenborg got, I don't think they're a great side. And as I say, Crusaders put up a really good fight against them. We probably should have gone through. And had they not had the man sent off in the second leg, they might have gone through. So we have to be doing more because I don't think Rosenborg are a great side. We made them look better, and that's something that frustrates me about Hearts at times. I've seen it already under Naismith and McAvoy. I saw it under Robin Nielsen. I've seen it under Craig Levine. We at times show far too much respect to teams that we should be beating. We did the same last week against Rosenborg. We did the same against Zurich the year before that. We do the same against Celtic and Rangers. So far too much respect. We need to get out of that. We need to start actually putting teams under pressure and showing that we're a good side. So Thursday's a massive game, and if we don't get through, I'll be really disappointed because I genuinely don't think Rosenborg are a great side.
So would you say that Thursday's game is like a mini cup final in a way?
100% it is. If we win this, then I think we've got a decent chance against PAOK or Hadrick Split, I think it is, to get through to the group stages, which would be fantastic. And the first leg will be at home. The first leg will be at home as well. I think that's the thing that Aberdeen are going to find now. We had about 5 million from the Euro thing last season. Aberdeen have got that now. That's why getting third these days now is so important, to get that European money and to try and kind of. And this is the frustration as well. With that money, we should have been doing a bit better.
But
I do think we have signed. I do think we have signed well. But you've got to get back to those group stage European games every season now. That's what we've got to do, and that's why I think. Again, that's why I think Hearts could finish third this season, because I think Aberdeen might struggle with the Thursday, Sunday games. I hope they do, and I genuinely don't think the Hibs are that good, to be honest. So we have to be finishing third. We threw it away last season. We can't do the same thing again this season.
Okay, Regan, were you wanting to come back in here?
I was just wanting to say, Graham, I think it's Thursday's a psychological game, right? Because I think, even though it's this early on, right, that could be a real psychological boost for Naismith and for McAvoy. But if, on the other hand, if they lose, then everybody then questions them and says, well, it's not going too well. That's us out of Europe, and all we've got to fight for now is the 2 domestic trophies.
No. On you go.
I wanted to ask you in terms of seeing Scottish football. I don't know what you think about European terms, but I think it's important that all these teams do well, because I know on Thursday you'll not be wanting the green side Edinburgh to win, but I think that in terms of the coefficient, I think there's too many times where Motherwell's got beat off a Welsh opposition, Kilmarnock got beat off the Irish team. There's been so many, and we need a bit of respectability back, because it's okay saying Rangers got to a European final, but when's the last time that Aberdeen, Hearts, or anybody else got a decent result in Europe? And I think it's about time, Graham.
No, 100%. We talk about coefficient all the time, and here's a question for both you and Michael, right? do you think, and I've thought this for a long time now, and I've noticed it again this season as well. I mean, do you think it is unfair that most of these teams that we're playing against in Europe now start the season earlier than we do? So, like Rosenborg, for example, they're already halfway through their season, whereas Hearts have only played now 2 domestic games. It's the same with the Irish leagues as well. When Sligo Rovers beat Motherwell, they'd started the season already. So surely that's not a good thing for Scottish football. The other teams are starting earlier than we are, and they're basically getting games under the belt. We're not. That can't help.
I know it's different competitions and different levels here, Graham, but I mean, if you look at the League Cup group stages, I mean, that was brought in because managers didn't want the players to be injured in pre-season games. But what's the difference? Because you could go into a League Cup game and a player could get injured and they could be out to like next December or next March or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I do. But that goes back to the way the SFA kind of does kind of things. But yeah, I agree with you in terms of European football because I mean Rosenborg starts their season, and I think did you not say that they finish it about Christmas or November, or they're going to shut down or whatever?
About that, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all to do with money, ain't it? Reagan. Oh, sorry, we've got a comment here from Paul McGonagall, and he was saying that Scotland should play in the summer for football. Maybe that way we'll get a bit of fun for 5 minutes. You never know. Or we should have used the November World Cup last season for an opportunity to make that change. Yeah. Well, this is a completely different show that we're going down, but it's an interesting subject. But
I do think we start the season far too late. I mean, like I said, Rosenborg, and it's not just Rosenborg. There's a number of leagues start the season long before we do, so we're not playing competitively. Rosenborg have played about 20 games so far, and you can see that on Thursday. They look more ready for it than Hearts did, and that happens all the time. I think apart from Rangers and Celtic, most other Scottish clubs get knocked to Europe because they're not ready. They're not ready for it. With other teams I'll be honest, right? And I don't know anything about the Irish League. I'm not going to say I do, but we should not be getting knocked out of European games by Irish teams.
Yeah.
But they do start their season before we do, so I think it does have an effect.
I mean, was there not a time that you were saying, Reagan, that Kamal got knocked out by a Welsh team in penalty kicks? Oops, Reagan's kind of muted. You think better than that?
As I was saying before, Michael really cut me off. We are all friends here, but no, I think it was Angelo Alessio. Would have been right there, Graham? Remember Alessio? And then there was a big fight after the game. And all the players weren't happy. They then campaigned to get him out. Remember, people were saying, "I wonder what's happened to here."
I can't remember who it was, but do you remember like years and years ago when Gretna were in the league and they got hammered 5-1? They got hammered 5-1 at Fir Park by I think it was some Irish team as well. I mean, it was embarrassing, and it does happen far too often.
No, because
sorry, Michael, on you go.
No, on you go, Reagan. On you go. Eggs for duty.
I was just going to say that in terms of, we need to remember that part of the reason why we're doing bad in Europe as well is because of the broadcast deal. Because you look at some of the players that we're bringing in. We like see Kilmarnock and St Mirren in the past, and Motherwell who are playing in Europe. So you'll be thinking that the Irish leagues worse than the Scottish leagues, but we're actually buying players from their leagues. Do you know what I mean, Graham?
Just wait till Michael's thing comes in, what he said last week, which I do agree with. Just wait till a Saudi Arabian club comes into European competitions, then we're definitely screwed.
And And I will put on a bet with you now, right? And it's not a betting show, right? Because we're sponsored by Bet365. I don't know if I've told you. But I'll put on a bet with you, right? I Saudi Arabia
Gamble
team.
responsibly, folks.
But what?
Gamble responsibly, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Saudi team will come on to the Champions League, and the first season they'll win it. And also,
Probably.
Sky will buy the rights to the Saudi football, and they'll actually show more games in Saudi than they do in Scotland. Right? Yeah.
Do you know my wish, right? My wish, right, is that somebody from Saudi Arabia comes into Scottish football and takes Chris Boyd, Chris Sutton, and Andy Walker all the way to Saudi Arabia, and we never see them again. I would be delighted with that. Quite happily take that.
Oh, that's poor, Graham. Come on. Why do that?
Let's move on.
They can take a few other pundits and all with them.
Yeah,
You know a fan of them, though? You know a fan?
Can't stand them.
Oh, come on, Graham. You're a fellow Scottish media pundit. You can't do that to your fellow colleagues.
They don't ever do anything apart from Celtic and Rangers games because they don't care about anyone else. They're clueless, both of them.
Don't start me, Graham. Don't start me on that one. Don't really. We'll come back to that another time. Maybe about 5 times during the season. I'm not sure. What about the game at Fir Park this afternoon in Reagan? I know.
Come on the well.
Watching bits of it, yeah, and I think Graham's happy. Are you happy with that, Scott?
One of the very few positives I can take from this. I'm not going to lie.
And apart from working with me and Reagan on a Sunday night, Motherwell 2, Hibs 1. Reagan, what do you think of that? Before we get to Graham's second favourite team in Edinburgh, the Highbees, let's speak about Motherwell. Brilliant start to the season for them.
4 points. I think Motherwell are just doing Motherwell things. They're under Stuart Kettlewell. They're just a well organised, well drilled team, and they seem to get the job done. I mean, in terms of that squad, I mean, well, I'm not going to say it's the best squad, but I think one thing that did stand out for me today was that I think the work rate at Motherwell is second to none, and I think in terms of the whole trying to play football as well, I think that's it's a refreshing thing in Scottish football, because I think sometimes we're too easy to play the ball and play the long ball. But I think in terms of Motherwell, I think in terms of I think they're going to have a good season. I mean, I think Stuart Kettlewell has been a very good appointment, and I think today, I think it just proves that they're always going to be there, because at the end of the day, they played Dundee, and they also played a team that is playing in Europe, and they actually played really well. So no, I think they're going to be in for a good season, and I think Stuart Kettlewell is certainly doing a good job there. The one thing I've got about Motherwell is I don't know if their squad's that deep, so Stuart Kettlewell will be hoping that he can keep some of the squad fit. But yeah, I think they're ones to watch this season, because I think in terms of Motherwell, I know we spoke about it on Friday, Michael, but their pitch is absolutely brilliant as well to play on.
We always say in football that a manager needs to find a decent team, and the right fit. But I'm beginning to think, okay, it's early days that this season, but I mean in terms of last season when Kettlewell came in, because I think they went on a 7-game win as well. Yeah. So do you think that Kettlewell's a right fit for Motherwell?
I think he is. I think the shoe fits. If you're being honest with Michael, I think in terms of he wasn't the flashy appointment. They were talking about Ian Holloway or Billy Davis, something like that. But I think Stuart Kettlewell has been the perfect match, and I think in terms of that, you need to give credit to Motherwell for sticking with people that they trust. And like I said on Friday, he's got Stevie Friel in there, who he trusts, who he knows, and I think he said that he'd not worked with him before, but I think it just shows you that obviously Stuart Getwell knows exactly what he wants, and it's good to see that it's paying off.
Reagan, how did Motherwell look up front today? Obviously, they've no Van Veen, so were they looking much of a threat going forward? Do they still need to maybe bring in a couple of more strikers to try and replace Van Veen, which is going to be difficult because they offered so much to that Motherwell side?
I think they do. I think they do still need a few more attacking options. I did say to Michael on Friday, I thought William Miller is going to be a big player for them, but he's still young though, so I don't know if they can rely on him too much. But yeah, I think what Motherwell have is they've got a real good team spirit. But like you said, Graham, I think in the attacking areas especially, I think that's somewhere they could be looking to add. I don't know if somebody like a Scott Wright would be an option, because I know his move fell through in Turkey and things like that, or maybe even a Mikey Johnson. He's still injured. He's like with everybody every season, but somebody like that can really take the game by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, because I mean, we did say on the show last week that would Kevin Van Veen be a big loss to Motherwell? And okay, he was missing a hell of a lot of chances last season, but at the same time, Graham, he was putting the ball in the back of the net. But so far, Motherwell's not missing him so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be hard for a team like Motherwell when you have a player like Van Veen that scored a lot of goals to try and replace him. I mean, I don't know if Connor Wilkinson's going to do that job or not. They've got a really good midfielder in Blair Spittle who will crack in a few goals, but they do need, I think, a bit more quality up front. And I do agree with Reagan. I think they'll be fine this season. I don't think they'll be top six. I don't see them challenging for that, but I think they'll be okay. But I mean, that's a really good win for them today. You know, a really good win for them today. It was going to be a tough game. Obviously, it's come off the back of a good result and performance on Thursday night. So it's a massive, massive win. I mean, I do wonder though today. I mean, obviously I've not seen the game because I was at the Hearts game. Reagan, were there any Lions chasing any of his players today or anything like that?
No, I did see that quote during the week about if a lion was chasing raw fish, how quick did they go? You know, I mean, I don't know about Lee Johnson, but I just think he's in soapy bubble. 1 minute he gets a great result. He'll probably blame it on his exertions in Europe and things like that, but I just don't think it's going to last with him.
See,
I mean, I was just going to ask. I mean, the thing is, right? I mean, I would never be a manager, but I mean, see if I'm like, I mean, I think he did it. I can't remember the exact comment, but he basically obviously said that there's a few players not working hard enough and like Will Fisher's position and stuff. I mean, if I'm a player and I'm hearing Lee Johnson saying a thing like that, are you going to be as up for it as you normally are? Because you're thinking he's criticising me like every week now. I mean, that can't be good.
And I think you're probably taking the mickey at him in the dressing room when he's not there, because the players talk. You know what I mean? They're probably going, "What is this guy talking about?"
Going back to your point earlier on, Reagan, because I was at when I heard the Hib score coming through, like, I was thinking about this in my head because I never saw the game today. I was thinking, well, Lee Johnson's going to come out and say, well, we've had a busy week in Europe, and even though they're at home, and Hearts could use that excuse as well. To be honest, I don't really use that as an it's just okay that you're going up maybe 2 or 3 levels in terms of playing in European football because of 2 different budgets and all that. But I don't buy that kind of like, we played during the week so that the players are knackered today. I mean, they're professional football players at the end of the day, you know. And I'm sure you would say that, Graham, as well, if Hearts doesn't win on Thursday night, because you're thinking, well, wait a minute, 2 games at home, we didn't have to travel. You know, why is Naismith or McAvoy or whoever comes out and does the praise after the game. I'm not sure. Maybe they come out holding hands after the game and speak to the media. But surely you can't use that in excuse, because, I mean, if you were playing in a League Cup game against Livingston and you are playing on Saturday, you're not going to say, well, we get beat today because, it was a very difficult game during the week. I mean, I wouldn't buy that.
That's why a lot of clubs now have a lot bigger squads. Rangers got bigger squads. Celtic, I know you'll probably touch on Reagan in a minute. But I think a lot of clubs have now got bigger squads because they know they're going to be playing a lot of games. Hibs know they're going to be playing Thursday, Sunday. Hearts know they're playing Thursday, Sunday. Aberdeen know they're playing Thursday, Sunday. You know you can basically, you can take players out if they're not doing enough. So I think it is a poor excuse. I mean, I think today, I kind of expected Hibs to win that game today. I don't know why, but I thought, given the performance on Thursday, given how much they look better, I thought they might have done a bit better today, but clearly they've not. I mean, was there anyone in that Hibs team today, Reagan, that impressed you? You're on mute again, mate.
Obviously not, Graham.
I think in terms of that, Graham, I think Hibs is a difficult one to judge because what 1 minute they can be great and then the next they can be so up and down, and it's really confusing for me to watch because I don't know if you guys seen, but on Thursday Joe Neal scored an absolute sensational goal.
That was a good goal, really good goal.
And then games like today where you're looking for people like him or Ellie Johan and people like that to take the game to the scruff of the neck, but I don't know. It's really difficult to comment on them right now because when you look at them, you really don't know what to expect. And I think in terms of Thursday, obviously, I think Lee Johnson will probably come out with his usual answers and say they're concentrating on Europe. It will take a lot away them, but I think after Thursday we can say that they're not going any further in Europe because they're playing Aston Villa. So I think I think he needs to focus on more in the league because if the owner's looking at in terms of the progress, I think when he looks at the first two fixtures of St Mirren at home, Motherwell away, he would have been looking for 6 points there, Graham, surely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you that. With that, I mean, obviously, Michael knows this as well, that last season there was a lot of pressure on Lee Johnson. That Aberdeen Hibs game was called El Sacchio. There was a couple of times last season that Lee Johnson could have got sacked. I mean, I know they won on Thursday. They probably will go through on the second leg against Luzerne. But 2 league games, no points. How much pressure is Lee Johnson getting under this season?
Yeah, I think he's under immense pressure, Graham, especially because I listen to a lot of the Hibs chats and I see that there's quite a big split in the support with Johnson yes or Johnson no, because I don't think he'll be there for long, to be honest, just in terms of all his press conferences. I think the whole baggage that he's bringing in the moment. I remember one time where he dressed up to Celtic Park as if he was going for a movie set. You know what I mean? I just think sometimes Lee Johnson should just focus on the football, because if you're a manager of Hibs, you expect a certain standard. You expect them to do well, and it's not as if the first 2 games like Derek McInnes side where you've played 2 of the best teams in Scotland. You've played Motherwell and St Mirren, who you probably are expected to beat.
Graham, on the back of next week's European game, I'm just looking at the fixtures there. They've got a home game against Raithrow with them in the Cup. That's another big game for Johnson.
That's a must-win, Michael. That's got to be a must-win.
Yeah, especially at home.
Yeah, I mean, I generally think, and I honestly, I'm not seriously biased, I just don't think Lee Johnson's a particularly great manager. I'm surprised that he lasted last season. I know there's a lot of Hibs fans, like you said there, Reagan, are very split on him. I think at times he comes across as very patronising, very arrogant. I mean, that comment he made about, if you were chased by a lion and stuff was just bizarre. some of the, I think at times he throws his players under the bus a bit too often. And I go back to last season. They went to Celtic Park and got beat 6-1. And he comes out and says that if I was a player, I'd be in the Celtic dressing room asking what they do. I just find that really bizarre. Why would you come out and say that? I just don't get it. So I think he's under massive pressure. Wraith Rovers is not going to be an easy game. They won yesterday 3-2 against Morton, although one of the goals that they got was never a penalty in a million years. But Wraith Rovers are a good side. They'll go to Easter Road and they will not sit back. They will have a go. It's a very difficult game, but I think the longer it goes where they're not picking up points in the league, it's fine if you do well in Europe, but if you're not winning games in the league, your bread and butter, you're going to be under massive pressure. And I've heard a lot of Hibs fans saying, this is such a great squad. They're not looking like that just now.
Just before we move on to the Celtic game, he reminds me of Pedro Caixinha. Reagan, remember when he came out and said about what was it, caravans and all that, Rangers at the time?
The dog is barking and the caravan roll on. Yep.
Yeah. So never mind. We'll kind of roll on ourselves, and we'll get to speak about the game early on today. That was a seamless link into the Aberdeen Celtic game that kicked off at 12 o'clock. It's nice to see that Sky has put Scottish football back to the mornings, gig a 12:30 and 5:30, but we'll just skim over that comment there. So Reagan, what do you think of the game? I actually quite enjoyed the game, to be honest, because Aberdeen had a go. Celtic was okay. Miggle could front at the back, still a bit shaky, but I did say on Friday that we would see the test because Starfelt's moved on now. What do you think of the game?
Yeah, I thought Celtic were pretty good, but fair play to Aberdeen. I thought Aberdeen played really well. Actually, Aberdeen dominated the play for quite a bit. Michael, that doesn't usually happen in Scotland. There was times where Aberdeen were kind of playing the ball and nice and secure, and I'm thinking this is pretty different for Aberdeen. But no, I thought Celtic were okay. I thought they're a bit they're a bit lackadaisical, Celtic. They got off to a fast start with their bad goal, which took a few minutes to check for the offside, but which was proven not to be. But I think the big worry for me for Celtic is still the centre of the defence there, Michael. And I think Greg Taylor's not been that good the last two games. Because I want to ask you this game, right? Because I think Greg Taylor was great the last 2 years because of the inverted fullbacks. See, now that he's back to being a normal fullback, it's totally different to being an inverted fullback.
Yeah, I think Greg Taylor's been a really good player for Celtic. He was excellent under Postecoglou. He maybe doesn't look quite as good this season. You might be right, but the thing is, I obviously haven't managed to watch most of the game today because I was going to Tynecastle. But I said this in one of the group chats. The fact that you basically said that Celtic weren't great today and still won, that's a worry for me for the rest of the league. Because if Celtic are not playing well and still winning, that's a massive, massive concern. Aberdeen, from what I kind of saw of brief highlights, they look decent today. They look good going forward. The mistakes at the back cost them.
It's a great chance.
Nicky Devlin for that second goal, it's really poor, and you can't make mistakes at this level against a guy like Kyogo because he will punish you. But I think Aberdeen, they look decent. They had a go, as Michael says a lot about teams not having a go at Celtic. They did, but it's just those mistakes. And if you make mistakes against Celtic, like Ross County did last week, you're gonna get punished.
I actually quite enjoyed the game today, Graham, because Aberdeen had a go, what we all expected, but it would make it more interesting because Scarfett wasn't there and all that. But they got the job done. Our pal Paul Davison said that he was at the game today. Disappointing with the result. So I take it you're not a Celtic fan then. But he says, happy with the performance. Yeah, I mean, I thought Aberdeen played well. Every time I see Leighton
The
Clarkson,
big thing for
I
me,
think he's a good player.
see the big thing that I would say about Aberdeen, they've got a clear style of play, Michael. Do you not agree with that? Because I think every time you see them, it's as if everybody knows their job and they seem to play fast attacking football.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Paul went on to say about Bradley Robson still about Leighton when to use a subs. But I don't know about you guys, but I think that will come over time because obviously this is Bradley Robson's first job as a manager, so he will get used to that by Christmas, making the subs early, at half time or whatever. But I think it's more of an experience thing, Reagan, you would say at the moment, by Bradley Robson.
I definitely, but so far so good for him. And I don't know if you've seen the goal, Graham, but the goal he scored was great as well. I know Carl Vickers has caught up in possession, but I think the ball from Duke to Miovski was great, and they actually had a good chance to go 2-1 in front, Graham. Through
Yeah,
Clarkson.
well, Paul's actually said if Leighton Clarkson's shot that just went wide had gone in, it would probably kept it at 2-2 at that point. I mean, I've said numerous times, I follow Liverpool, so I've seen Leighton Clarkson quite a lot. He's a very, very good footballer. So I think getting him permanently was a really good signing. Aberdeen, I think Clarkson's a very good footballer. And I think, Aberdeen are going to have a good season. They're going to be looking forward to the European draw like I was last season. They've got a lot to look forward to. And I heard Barry Robson as well after the game saying that he's still looking for three or four more signings. So, they're just going to get stronger. But I do wonder, though, as I said earlier on, how the Europeans are going to affect them in the league, because it is very difficult playing Thursday, Sunday. It's going to be very, very hard. So we found this out last season. You need a bigger squad. That's what Robson's doing. But they do have a good squad, and there's no doubt about that. Duke is just a brilliant player. The fact they managed to keep him is huge. And they've got a lot of quality there. I think Graham Shin is a really good player. I think defensively look decent. I think Rubezic looks a really good signing. So they've got a lot of quality there. But they're not going to be judged on games like today. But like I said, if you make mistakes at this level against teams like Celtic and against guys like Kyogo, the thing with Kyogo, I said this a lot, Kyogo at times doesn't look like he's in a game, but he gets one chance and he buries it. I mean, that goal today, it's a poor mistake from Devlin, but it's a great touch for Kyogo and a great finish. You cannot make mistakes against this guy because he'll just bury you.
I said this last season, Graham. I'm not putting him in the same bracket as him, Larson, but as Reagan knows as well by watching Celtic, I mean, Larson wouldn't be in the game for 59 minutes and then bang in the net 1-0, and Larson scores a winning goal for Celtic. So but by no means, I'm not putting Kyogo up with Larson because I think Larson just stands alone. But you see what I'm trying to say here, Grim. 1 minute he's not in the game and a sniff goal, he puts it in the net. And by the way, in the second half, he missed a sitter as well.
Thing is, that's what the good strikers do. They cannot be in a game, but then they get one chance and they finish it. And I've said this before. I look at Kyogo. I watch Kyogo quite a lot when I'm watching Celtic games on TV. His movement is incredible. He never stops running, and he kind of plays on the edge. He plays in that offside role, but if he sniffs a chance, he takes it. He's so crucial to Celtic. People wonder, could he maybe perform like he did last season? He's already started really well, so he's going to be a massive player again this season. And the fact that Celtic gave him a longer term deal, well, you can see why, because he's such a quality player.
We've got to say cheerio to Regan. He's gone off to meet Brendan Rodgers of the team bus. Maybe he's going out with David Martindale. I'm not sure. Remember that comment, but I thought Majorowski played well as well for Aberdeen. I've seen him a few times, but I mean Aberdeen started. They started off in the front foot, Graham. They come out and they had, it took about 50 minutes for Celtic to get into the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that see when you're on top, especially against teams like Celtic Rangers, doesn't happen often. But when you're on top, you've got to take your chances. And Aberdeen didn't really do that today. But Majowski and Duke are massive for Aberdeen. They're really big players. I'm a massive fan of Duke. I would love him at Hearts. There's still 2 weeks left of the window, so the worry would be, could somebody else come in and take him? He's so important to how Aberdeen play. But they've got a lot of quality, like I said, they've got a lot of quality. I look at that midfield and I do like Shinnie. I do like Leighton Clarkson. I think defences will look pretty solid. Aberdeen have got a lot of quality in there. But like I said, it's getting that kind of balance on that between like European football and domestic football. That's going to be tough. Because Hearts found out last season when we played group stage football, it was so hard to play on the Thursday and then get prepared for the Sunday game. So that's what they're going to try and kind of try and balance. But there's no doubt they've got a very good squad, and I think Barry Robson is a decent coach. And I think if Aberdeen get third this season, fair play to them. I mean, Paul says, I think we're missing McCrory and Ramadani. We know the midfield similar to them. I'm sure I might be wrong. But did I not hear something last week that Ramadani might be away for like £1 million or something? He would be a massive miss because he's a good player. He's a very technical player. So he'd be a huge miss if he gets sold. But I think McCrory, again, really, really good footballer as well. Can play a number of positions. I think from what I've seen, he looks better in midfield, actually. He's a dynamic player. So Aberdeen have got a very good squad. And like I said, when I heard Robson saying he wants another 3 or 4 players, they can have a very good squad. But it's just going to be how they balance European football and domestic football. That's why I think Hearts will finish third, just because of that. And I do think they've got a very good squad, but it's going to be very tough this season.
Paul might help us here, but first of all, I don't know if John Hayes was injured today. And okay, he's getting on in age, but he can still do a job. The other one I was going to ask Paul about was, because I'm not really sure, was the boy at Rangers, Graham. He went to Germany. The name escapes me at the moment. He went to one of the top German sides. David.
I know who you mean. I can't think of his last name.
Yeah,
but I know who you mean.
He was at Aberdeen, wasn't he, last season?
I think he was. Paul's actually said that Ramadani signed for Lecce for 1.2 million plus tell-on percent. You know, that's a good deal. Getting 1.2 million for Ramadani is a really good deal, and I'm sure that Robson will want to try and invest that a bit further. David Bates, that was it. Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Yes, Hayes was injured and Ryan Duncan came in for him today. To be honest, I've seen Ryan Duncan a few times. He's a young laddie, but he's a really good player. He's got a lot of energy, really good player as well. I think he could be a good player for Aberdeen. Whether he plays a lot, I don't know, but he's a good player.
Yeah, David Bates could still do a job. To be honest, I thought David Bates left Rangers too early. Could go to Germany.
Possibly. And again,
he looked good.
Yeah, and Aberdeen as well didn't have Liam Scales. I don't know if that was because of the whole Celtic Aberdeen thing or if he's actually signed for Aberdeen yet. No. But Liam Scales, whenever I've seen Liam Scales play, he looks a dominant centre-half, probably another player that Aberdeen maybe need. But he's there's no doubt Aberdeen have got... he's back at Celtic. There's no doubt they've got a very good squad. If Aberdeen can do a deal to bring Liam Scales back in, I think they'll do it. And I don't really see Celtic using him, to be honest. They've got a lot of quality there, although I haven't watched the game, but Carter Vickers apparently went off injured. Maybe he might stay.
What do you think of the Abada goal? But also, I want to ask a bit like them, but I want to ask you about the VAR decisions, because I know VR took a battering on the show last season, and hopefully it's going to calm down a wee bit this season. Well, until we come to the Ross County game, that is the thing, you know. But do you know, feel as though they're making decisions quicker this season so far? I know it's only 2 games in, and I don't want to get carried away with myself, but I mean, because if that was last season, that would have took about a good maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Well, actually, the way you've mentioned it, I've kind of not really moaned about VAR yet, so I'm quite surprised about that. Yeah, it did work a lot quicker, and it was the right decision. Abada was onside, and that's when VAR is used properly. It's a bit more efficient. I'm hoping that they've had a meeting during the summer and said we need to sort this out because it was just a farce last season. I mean, the fact it was brought in so late wasn't great. So I'm hoping, and I said this last season, I'm hoping it's going to get better. It is still very early, and we will get to Ross County. But yeah, it did feel a bit quicker, and they got to the right decision, which is what you want. Paul Donaldson said, "Would like to sign Scales, but the whole saga's been going for ages. I don't think we'll get him." There's still 2 weeks left, and I think if Carter Vickers is back fit, I think there's a good chance that Aberdeen might get a deal done. It's a bit like the Moises Caicedo thing with Chelsea and Liverpool, which is just an absolute fart. How long that's taken is doing my head in. But yeah, I think Aberdeen will get that deal done. I don't think Celtic really want to keep Scales, but it'll depend on that injury of Carter Vickers. But as I say, anytime I've seen Scales, he looks very, very good, and he looks very balanced. Boom, boom. See what I did there? Scales balanced.
Yeah,
you like that?
Yeah, true. I know it's easy for me and you, right? Because we were watching the game on TV, and it might not be easier for the ref at the game in real time, right? But and I'm not going to say this right. Before it went to VAR, when you see the replay again, I knew that was a goal.
You could tell pretty quickly. And to be fair, I follow quite a few Aberdeen fans on Twitter. Even they said that's onside, so they knew it was onside. And when they drew those lines,
it wasn't like no. But to be honest, you don't really have to have lines there, Graham, because if you think back to it, was actually on line with the assistant ref.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, if you're Aberdeen, if you're Barry Robson, you're disappointed about the way you defended that. To lose a goal from a set piece was very poor given the players that got back there. So that probably disappointing for Barry Robson. But to be fair to Abada, he was in the right place at the right time. And he was onside. And, I know I was looking at the group chat earlier and Reagan was talking about Celtic weren't great today. But like I said, that's 2 games now against County and today where they've not played that well, but they've scored 7 goals. So that's a worry for the rest of the league, but they're still winning games.
Do you think it will help O'Reilly's confidence how he scored the goal? Because, to be honest, he's not really been on fire. And I'm going back to the end of last season as well, Graham. I mean, I think on his first season when Postecoglou was here, he was on a different level. But, like, last season, maybe I'm being a bit hard on the guy, but he wasn't really in games as much. Maybe the goal that he scored today would help his confidence and all that. But as Brendan Rodgers says at the end of the game, it's a wee bit early as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matt O'Reilly, I like watching him. He's a really, really good footballer. He's got a really good football brain, and he scored last week as well on a good finish, and he scored again today. It probably will give him confidence, and I think the longer you stay in the team, the more confidence you get, and I think he will just drive on from here. There's no doubt he's a goal-scoring threat. He's a really, really good footballer, and I'm going to ask you a question as well. It was kind of, I saw something in the group chat earlier I wanted to ask you because I knew it was coming on tonight. What do you think about the whole Rio Hatate thing? Because obviously last week he didn't start. David Turnbull started. He didn't start again today. Understandably, David Turnbull did well. But last season, Rio Hatate was great for Celtic. So, I mean, where do you see Rio Hatate now? Because he's clearly not a first-team regular.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ask me about that, if you between him, Kyogo or Maida, who was the first one to go, I would say a tie. I know that Dave was saying in the group chat after the game that he was speaking to a fellow Aberdeen fan after the game, and he thinks that a tie is really not playing for Brendan Rodgers. He might not, but I guess feel as though that manager comes in and they have their favourites. And David Turnbull, well, he came on last week. He scored, maybe scored a hat trick. I think he got the man of the match actually. With scoring 2 goals.
I think he did.
Aye, but no, I mean I like him, but but towards the end of last season, he didn't really do enough for me to make a place in the team. He's got to He's got to prove himself first, but first of all, he's got to get in the team. And
Are you? Are you
mean,
seeing? I mean, I know it's only a couple of games in, but you seeing massive differences from the last time Brendan Rodgers was here to now?
I think I said this to you on the show, I can't remember, but like when Postecoglou went, we were spoiled in a way because like the performances was like sky high, and we never. I don't think we've never saw these performances since Martin O'Neill was here. To be honest with you, we were just belong teamed away, as though they weren't there. But as a new manager comes in, there's a different style and a different format to the team, and you've got to remember that Jota away, he's a big loss for Celtic. You know that this talk of Tierney coming back, I'm not sure how positive that story is. If he would come back, I think he was going to come back in loan. But if you see the Arsenal team yesterday, that he wasn't in the squad, so I think that it's a work in progress, Graham. You know, like as I said, that they're fine middle to front, but it's just the back line is a bit kind of shaky. And you saw, because the second flag show, you would see the difference because Scarfelt's not there. And obviously Cat Vickers made a mistake, and then he came off injured at half time. So it's going to take, I think it's going to take a few weeks for the team to gel, and the way Rodgers wants to play, in the way that the team sees Rodgers wants to play and stuff like that. I mean, it'll all come together, but it's going to take time. But I mean, the big test will come up in 2 weeks' time when they go to Ibrox to face Rangers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with, obviously they can put in the group chat that he thinks Celtic squad depth is still not quite there? Is that something you agree with? Are you quite happy with the squad depth just now?
No, I mean, I've said this for a while. Like, Celtic needs a goalkeeper, a right back, a left back, and the striker. I like how Petrov must watch this show, by the way, because after the game he said Celtic needs a striker. I've been saying that for weeks because like O's out for 6 weeks. What happens to Kyogo if he gets injured? No one. A goalkeeper. A lot of people say a lot of people still doesn't like Joe Hart, and I think he's okay. I mean, the only criticism I've got for Joe Hart is he makes stupid mistakes and he doesn't come out for cross balls, even though he punched balls away to go. But he could get easily came out and caught them. I don't know why, but I mean, you know, obviously we won't get left back, right back, and a striker because there's only what did you say 2 weeks left in the window. But I mean, a priority it must be a striker for me looking in. Yeah, what about you?
I mean, I think it's still a decent squad, but I think you might be right. You know, if they lose Kyogo for any amount of time, it's going to be difficult because they don't really have a lot else on the bench.
I mean, you did see that, Graham. I mean, during lockdown, I mean, we spoke about this millions of times on the show when Kyogo got injured against Johnson. Remember that game he came off, and that was the last game before the winter break or something like that. And he came back. He came back in the team. He was playing games. He wasn't the same player, and it took him about seven or 8 games to get back up to speed. And I put it back to the game against Johnson because he was injured and out for a long period of time, and that kind of like upset the kind of like rhythm as well. But no,
Paul says that Joe Hart was very lucky not to be sent off today. If Sockler had not been offside, he would have been red carded. And I think I can kind of understand where Celtic fans are coming from with Joe Hart. He doesn't look the best with the ball at his feet. And if you look at last week against Ross County, he was very fortunate. If Simon Murray stays on his feet,
Well,
I mean, that could have been a penalty. I think he's very fortunate there, to be honest.
Well, I would have to disagree with you, Glenn, because obviously I was at the game and I said, oh, yeah, he's lucky to stay in the park. But when you see the highlights back, when I came back and watched it, he never touched him. Simon
I think he's.
by him.
I think he's very fortunate. I think at times I watch Joe Hart. A lot of managers these days seem to want to have their goalkeeper being really good with their feet and playing out from the back. I don't think that's Joe Hart's game. He doesn't look comfortable doing it.
That's what Postecoglou done when they came into him. The very first thing that he did.
He doesn't look comfortable doing it, though. It's all very well trying to do that if you've got a goalkeeper that's comfortable, but Joe Hart doesn't look comfortable doing that. And it's been noticed a few times that he looks very, very poor when he tries to play for the back.
And I mean, no disrespect, like you can do that against teams like Livingston and you know, but when you're coming up in the Champions League, you can't get away with that because if you make a mistake, it's a goal. In fact, if you make two mistakes, it's 2-0 down. So, you know, no disrespect to Livingston fans or whatever, but I mean, you can get away with it against, say, like Livingston, Dundee, or on a Wednesday night or whatever. But in the Champions League, or even in the Europa Cup, you know, and Europe overall, you can't get away with that.
I haven't, obviously because I haven't been at the Hearts game, I haven't seen anything about if Brendan Rodgers said anything about Carter Vickers' injury. Is it serious or is it not deemed to be too bad?
Well, to be honest, he didn't really know after the game when they got interviewed. He says that we'll assess it during the week, but I think that's one of the benefits of Celtic not having European games during the week, because the next game is a week today. So, like, what's that, 7 days from now? So that even if Carter Vickers has got a wee knock on the game today, still get time to make the game on Sunday. But he didn't know the full extent of the injury. But what he did say was Celtic are looking to bring on one or two players this week.
I'm going to ask Paul, who's still on the chat here, hopefully. As an Aberdeen fan, Paul, what's your expectations for the rest of the season in terms of where you think you'll finish in the league, cups, and European football? What would you be happy with? So if Paul's still watching, hopefully he'll answer that for me.
What about you, Graham? Like, what would you? I'll say the same thing back to you. What you asked Paul there.
I think Aberdeen will do well, but for me, and I make no bones about saying this, I've already said that I think Hearts have got the third best squad in Scotland, and I think the European games will affect Aberdeen playing Thursday, Sunday. I still think Hearts will finish third. I think Aberdeen will finish fourth. I think they'll have a decent run in the Scottish Cup. But again, when it comes to cup football, it's about the draw. If you avoid Celtic and Rangers, you've got a really good chance. I think they could have a decent run in the Scottish Cup and the League Cup as well. And I think European football, and again, it's all going to depend who they get in group stage. If they get a decent group stage draw, they could do all right. But, you know, Hearts didn't do well last season. We had a really tough group. So it just depends who they get. But I think Aberdeen can have a good season. I do think we'd be happy with third, but I think our squad would be stretched for being in Europe. That's the thing. That's what I keep talking about. It's that European thing. And I think that's where Robson wants to bring in 4 more players just to try and balance that European football.
But I think that goes for all the Scottish clubs, Graham, and that's a fair point that Paul makes. But I mean, it goes for Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs. You know, okay, they might be up against getting a net Rangers to play Aston Villa. By the way, they still get to win on Thursday night, even though they're halfway there. You know.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I do think they will beat Luzerne. I wasn't that impressed by Luzerne. I think Hibs will get through, but I mean, that's going to be a battle of Britain. You know, it'll be John McGinn back at Easter Road. That could be a massive, massive game. But I think, you know, Paul says happy with third. Of course he would be. It would be if Aberdeen finished third with having played European football, that's a great season for them. I mean, I genuinely think, as I say, if they can avoid Celtic and Rangers in the Cup Same as Hearts. I've basically said in one of my predictions, I'm going to get this wrong anyway, but I've basically said I think Hearts will win the League Cup. I don't know why, it's just an optimism. But I think Aberdeen could do well in the Scottish Cup this season, maybe even win it. So I think they can have a good season, I think, Aberdeen. But how they do Europe's going to be interesting for me.
We'll try and get Matthew on the show for the asking for the Hibs game because I mean, I said get that to you in the group chat. What you said to me, what do you think of the game? And I said get some Matthew Derby. By the way, just in case you're if you like Paul and Paul saying, who the hell is Matthew? Well, Matthew used to be on the show and then he never came back. I just said
that's good. That took over the better looking one.
Yeah, the Hibs.
I really hope Matthew's not watching this.
By the way, no, I'll be alive. No, I totally agree with you. That, you know, I would do that if you were on to Matthew as well. You know,
I know you would.
Typical journalist, two-faced. Anyway, let's move on to the St Mirren Dundee game. And I mean, Dundee, I was quite impressed with Dundee support yesterday, actually, at St Mirren. But I mean, you've got to speak about St Mirren first, Graham, because that's 2 wins out of 2, 6 points, you know, and, you know, they were sitting top of the league last night. They should be happy.
Yeah, just to touch on Paul's point, he would love us to win a cup. Anything can happen in a world of match. It's been far too long since won the Scottish Cup, which I agree with. It's been like that with Hearts as well, 2012 for the last time. So I think Aberdeen winning a Scottish Cup needs to happen soon. But yeah, I mean, St Mirren had a really slow start last season. Didn't have a great League Cup campaign. This season been slightly better and a great start. You know, beating Hibs last week, winning yesterday. And to be honest, for the first half, and I'm hoping our pal Hashbury's watching this as a St Mirren fan, for the first half, St Mirren were excellent. They probably could have been 3 or 4 up, missed a lot of chances, and they gifted Dundee away back into the game. But Zach Robertson's penalty was absolutely dreadful.
Very
Such a poor penalty. If he scores that and they get back to 1-1, you never know what could happen. They then get the second goal through Michael Mandron to give the penalty in the first place. But St Mirren look a really good side. You know, to follow, it was after last week, you're thinking, can they follow that up? You know, Dundee played well last week against Motherwell, got a point. And I thought St Mirren were excellent yesterday. They played a lot of good stuff. And again, they could have been more comfortable. They had a potential goal not given for the VAR. I genuinely thought we had goal line technology, but clearly not. It was very difficult to tell from the angle if that was over the line. I think it might well have been, but it wasn't given. So I think St Mirren will be delighted with that. You know, 3 points. They'll be disappointed not to keep a clean sheet. But Dundee were a good second half, came back in, and again, we talk about this a lot like last season as well. The introduction of Scott Tiffany made a massive difference. I thought Tiffany was excellent when he came on yesterday. Created the goal for Dundee, and you're thinking 2-1. Could they get back in it? But they just couldn't find that second goal. But St Mirren looked very good, and that's why I've already tipped them to finish top 6 again. I genuinely think they look a very good side.
I know we spoke about Dundee on the show last week about 9 lonely signings, and do you think that would be, you know, the difference for them to stay up or go down? But how big a signing for Dundee would Scott Tiffany would be?
Absolutely massive. He was one of the best players in the Championship last season. It's no surprise that he did go to Dundee a bigger club than Partick. They probably are. But they're in the Premier League. I think he's been excellent. I thought he was, when he came on, I was surprised he never started yesterday. But when he came on, he made a huge difference, made the goal, made a lot of really good runs. He's such a creative player, a clever player. He's a really good signing. Honestly, he's probably one of the best signings Dundee have made. And it can be difficult when you make that many loan signings. Can they gel? Can they adjust? Are they going to be up for it because they're only on loan? You can see second half they went up for it. They just didn't quite have that killer instinct in front of the goal. But I've said this last week. I think Dundee will be fine. I genuinely think it's St Johnstone are going to go down. Livingston are going to finish second. Bottom, I know we'll get to that shortly. But I think Dundee will be fine. I think Tony Docherty is a decent coach. I know he's not managed a lot of games, but he's a decent coach. And I think they can be happy-ish with the performance yesterday, second half anyway. First half, they were nowhere near it. But like I said, had Zach Robinson scored that penalty, made it 1-1, it's maybe a different game, but it was such a poor penalty.
See, Matt, you've got me doing a bit of overtime here, Graham, right? Because I think that as Packet Thistle came up, you were going to saw Scott Kiffney moving away because Packet Thistle would be in the Premiership. But I think you're right. I think it was a disappointment of Thistle not getting up. But then I'm thinking about if Dundee's a bigger team than Packet Thistle. I would say no, but I would say the only difference is Dundee's in the Premiership and Packet Thistle's not. Because like, if you look at like maybe this is a bit unfair for me to say, if any Dundee fans are watching, you're welcome to come in and say, Michael, you're talking nonsense against them. But you know, Packet Thistle has got a nice wee stadium, a bigger fan base, you know, and they've got a lot of things going for it, and I'm sure that they've got a training centre opened up in Glasgow somewhere, or maybe they were building one. But I would maybe that's where I would disagree with you on, Graham. But no, but I mean you're right for Dundee to get to the Premiership. But as I say, I mean the only way Tiffany's not there this season is he didn't want to play Championship football again.
Yeah, and I think he's too good for the Championship. He was one of the best players in that league last season, and it must have been a massive blow, not just to Partick, but for him personally, the fact that he put so much last season they couldn't get them up. They were 20 minutes away from coming up. Such a massive letdown. So for him to get moved to the Premier League, where I think he should be, is a great signing. Like I said, I was surprised he didn't start yesterday, but when he came off the bench, he made a massive impact. And he has to start the next game anyway. I think he's just a really good footballer. He's such an intelligent player, so he's a massive, massive player. And I genuinely think Dundee will be fine this season. I saw enough in their second half performance yesterday to say that they can compete. You know, they won't be anywhere near the top six, but they'll be fighting in amongst it with like St Johnstone, Livingston, probably teams like Ross County and stuff. They'll be fine. I don't know if they're making any more friends for the next couple of weeks. They might do. You know, if Tony Docherty has got any more positions he wants to maybe strengthen, maybe potentially another couple of strikers maybe. But they'll be fine. You know, they showed more than enough yesterday in that second half to say that they can compete. But they'll be disappointed at the goals they lost. You know, the second goal in particular from a set piece, Michael Mandron just runs off his marker and heads it in. It's a poor goal to lose. So that's a frustration. But, you know, 2 games in, they drew last week, only lost by a narrow margin yesterday. I think Dundee fans will be quite happy with how they're going so far, but there's a long way to go.
And as for St Mirren, I mean, they've just carried on the way they ended last season, and Stephen Robertson's doing a brilliant job there.
Yes, I mean, you did wonder, could they kind of repeat what they did last season, finish in top 6? You know, could that be, you know, could they do the same thing again this season? Well, they've already shown they can. 2 wins in a row, they're looking really good. They've got a League Cup game to come as well. They look very good. They're going to be very hard to beat this season. You know, the fact that last week, fair play to them, you know, they were 2-0 up last week, get back to 2-2, and you think, oh, they've blown it. And they go and score. So they've got a lot about them in the St Mirren side. And I think Robertson's a good manager. You know, we know that he was talked about for the Hearts manager job potentially. Didn't happen. I'm not disappointed by that, to be honest. I think he's a good manager, but I don't think he's Hearts manager. So I think he's done a very good job, and they will be a match for anyone, and especially at home. I think at the Smasher Stadium, they're going to be a tough test. At Celtic, no, after last season, I think they'll be fine. And that's why I already said I think they'll finish top 6. They look a very good side.
I was saying earlier to Reagan, Graham, about do you think Stuart Kettlewell found his fit at Motherwell? You could maybe say the same about Robertson at St Mirren, even though he brought half of the Motherwell team with him.
No, absolutely. Do you know what? Sometimes some managers just fit certain clubs. Kettlewell fits Motherwell. Stephen Robertson clearly fits St Mirren. And he's got the players playing for him, and that's a big thing. If the players buy into what you want to do, and they buy into your work ethic, then they'll run through brick walls for you. You can see that St Mirren players are doing that. They clearly like playing for St Mirren. They've got a lot going for them just now. they just look a very good unit. I think, again, like most teams at the moment, with 2 weeks left of the window, I think Robinson will maybe try and bring in 1 or 2 more players, but they look a very, very good side. And I genuinely think they're going to be a very difficult team to beat this season. As Dundee and St Mirren Dundee and Hibs have found out so far, they look a really good side. When you play St Mirren, you're not going to get it easy. Robinson's got his side very well set up, but they've got a threat going forward. And, 6 points already after 2 games. They'll be delighted with it.
I was so disappointed that Mark O'Hara wasn't playing yesterday, because what I was going to say was it's Mark O'Hara derby, because I don't know if you remember that Mark O'Hara started his professional career. Well, he started his professional career at Kilmarnock and they went to Dundee. That he played under Neil McCann. So, but O'Hara wasn't playing yesterday, and that was the captain missing yesterday. But St Mirren still won.
It just goes to show what a good squad that Robinson's got then, that you can leave the captain out and still win. But you know that you've got that quality to bring on. There's no doubt in Mark O'Hara's ability. You'll know him better than I do, but he's a really good footballer. And some of the goals he scored, that goal at Ibrox last season he scored on the half volley was just outstanding.
Yeah.
Just a really good player.
I'm sure he won the St Mirren play. He won Play of the Year at St Mirren, but also I think that was the goal of the season. Ibrox, were they not winning 2? Were they not beating Rangers 2-1, and Rangers came back and won 5-2 or something? Or 4-2?
Yeah, they did. They did. You're right.
So there you go. 2 wins out of 2 for St Mirren. Well done. Okay, Graham. Let's speak about VAR. Even though we were praising VAR a minute ago, but you can get your teeth into this. Right? And another team that looks good this season. And okay, they goose picked up with 3 points yesterday. Ross County 2, St Johnson now. We'll come to St Johnson in a minute, because I think we'll need another 2 hours to speak about the season so far. Very disappointing. But let's speak about Ross County. You saw them at Celtic Park last week because it was on the telly. You only saw the highlights last night, the likes of Adams. I've been very impressed with Ross County, not only yesterday, Graham, but last week as well, because they had a go at Celtic, and that's what I said to Ross as well, that you might catch Celtic in an off day. Okay, they're only going to beat Celtic, but just with the occasion and all the rest of it that goes with it. But Ross County actually had a go at Celtic, and coming out, not parking about 15 buses behind the ball, and that made for a better game. And, yesterday, they won 2-0, and Ross said getting the group chat after the game, and you saw the highlights, so like to me, Graham, Ross, we could have been sitting here speaking about a 4-0 win, easy.
Yeah, that's 2 games now, and I've been really impressed with County. I thought they were excellent last week. I said to Ross last Friday before the season started, it's first game of the season, you're at Celtic Park, you may as well have a goal, and they did that. And I thought they were very unfortunate with 3-0 down. They had a couple of decent chances. Murray was causing problems. They really played Celtic. They got after Celtic on the front foot. And they scored twice at Celtic Park. I don't think many teams will do that this season. And you're thinking, right, tomorrow's a big game now. I know it's only 2 games in. But can they get 3 points yesterday? And they more than deserved that. They were excellent yesterday. Part of that was the fact that St Johnstone were awful. But don't take away from how good Ross County were. They could have won that game 5 or 6, and there could have been no debate about it. They were excellent. Numerous chances. Murray was excellent. Connor Randall playing that new midfield role. His goal was excellent. Really well worked and a really good goal. I thought until he went off injured, which we'll get to in a minute, Jan Danda, I really like him. He's a very, very good player. Really skillful, really creative. He was pulling the strings. And Ross County were excellent. That was a really good performance yesterday. Malky Mackay was delighted, and as he should be. The only frustration will be that they've not added to their tally, because 2-0 doesn't really show a reflection on the score. That could have been 6 or 7. They were excellent yesterday, and I wish Ross was here actually, because he could enthuse about the performance. But they were excellent. They really should have hammered St Johnstone. But I think the thing that will please Ross and the Ross County fans and Malky Mackay is they're creating chances. They went to Celtic Park last week, created numerous chances. Yesterday, created numerous chances. It's just finishing them off that last little bit, but they look a very good side. And I said this to Ross last week. I think after what happened last season, where they've been 20 minutes away from being relegated, they had to perform better this season. They've already started that. I've got no doubt they'll be fine this season performing like that because they were excellent.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just looking at St Johnson's, even though it's only been 2 games, Graham, right? But they've actually conceded 4 goals in the opening 2 games. And that, our team for St Johnson, under Cam Davis, and that would be the opposite way.
If you add to that the League Cup group, the fact they got hammered 4-0 by Stirling Albion at home, they look a very, very poor side. They've not strengthened properly. They look, going forward, they've got nothing. Apart from Stevie May, they've got nothing up front. They don't look creative. They don't look like they're going to score goals. The only positive they could have yesterday was the young laddie that came on in the second half, Stephen. Taylor Stephen, I think it was. He looked really good when he came on. But apart from that, they look awful. And I listened to Stephen McLean's interview after the game. And again, I know it's only a few games in, but he already sounds deflated. He basically said that was unacceptable, which it was. They just look. That's why me, you, Dave, Reagan, Ross, all the other pundits have predicted St Johnstone to go down. Because there's nothing about them. They just look so poor. I mean, last week against Hearts, they were decent defensively, but offered nothing going forward. And yesterday, like I said, that could have been 6 or 7 to Ross County. St Johnstone looked so poor. And there's 2 weeks left in the window, and I know that Stephen McLean said they're going to be busy. They have to be, because that squad looks awful.
I'm just looking at the group stages of the League Cup, Graham. They only beat Arroa 4-0, and that was it. I'm not being funny here, Graham, but I second flag night to the guys that was on the show. Do you think when St Johnstone won the double, it was a hindrance to that last season? Because since they won that cup double, they've went back the way.
I think for a team like St Johnstone, when you're a team like St Johnstone, you're not expected to win very much. And the fact that they won both cups, you're not going to get better than that. To be honest, when you're a St Johnstone fan, you're not going to win the league. You're probably maybe not going to get top 6. So that was a massive thing for them. But it's just been a downward spiral. I mean, we talked about the fact that Davison done a great job. And I can understand why he got sacked. But I think for me, and I said this last week, giving the job to Stephen McLean was the wrong decision for me. He was a great player, but he's not got the experience as a manager. And for me, it's going to fail. That's why I said last week I think he'll be the first one to go. He looks really lack of confidence, lack of ideas. I don't want to say the players aren't playing for him because it's too early to say that, but they just don't have an identity. They don't look good enough. Like I said, apart from Stevie May, they've got nothing going forward. They signed Luke Jeffcott, who didn't look great when he came on yesterday. I think the goalkeeper they've got, Mitov, looks really good. He's the only plus point I can see. I'm the only lad that came on yesterday, but apart from that, I mean, how many more games do you go before you say this isn't working anymore and McLean gets sacked? It's just not working. They look a very poor side.
Well, if you look at it this way, Graham, I mean, I know you were saying about the Hearts. I mean, if the season started early for the teams in cup competitions, but St Johnstone's failed twice in 2 seasons to get out of the group stages of the League Cup.
And again, I don't want to be disrespectful, but the teams they're playing are not teams that you would think they should be struggling against.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to Stirling Albion. That was a sensational result, but St Johnstone should not be getting beat 4-0 by a League 2 side. That is just nowhere near good enough. That should not happen. And you can understand why St Johnstone fans are raging, and rightly so. I mean, They love Stephen McLean. He's been a great servant to the club as well, but it's just not working. And I thought at the time when they appointed McLean, it was a strange decision, and it looks even worse now. I mean, they just look devoid of confidence, and I think, if I'm right, I'm sure the next league game's Celtic.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not going to go well, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a horrendous start. So you've lost 2-0 at Hearts, you've lost 2-0 yesterday in a game that you could have been 5 or 6 down, and then you play Celtic. That's a horrendous start.
Do you think that? I know we were speaking about Stephen Naismith and Frank McAvoy, and we were having the whole debate about who's going to be the Hearts manager and all that kind of thing. And you mentioned, I'm sure you mentioned on the show the word cheap option. I'm not showing a disrespect to St Johnson, but I think you know where I'm going with this one, Graham. Do you think it was a cheap option to appoint a man that was there already in the coaching staff? And to be honest with you, I don't know him that well, right? But when you hear him speaking to the media, he sounds a kind of like quiet guy. And I mean, Celtic found out with Tony Mowbray, if you're a quiet guy, you shouldn't be a football manager because you're just going to get shown the door.
100% is a cheap option. And I kind of feel sorry for McLean because when he's offered the job, he's not going to turn it down. But do you know what? See, sometimes I just think to myself, you know you're not ready for this. Why are you taking it? You know, why not be a number 2 or something and work your way up? There's no way he should have got that job. It was completely the cheap option.
Am I right, Glenn, when he was there, when Tommy Wright was there, when they won the Scottish Cup?
I think he was playing that. He was playing that day. I think he scored that game actually when they won the Scottish Cup. He's been a great servant to St Johnstone, and I'm sure that when he got appointed, a lot of St Johnstone fans thought, "Yeah, good appointment." It's not. He might have been a good player. Same as Stephen Naismith. Stephen Naismith was a great player for Rangers, great player for Everton, really good player for Hearts. Doesn't make you a good manager, and it's beginning to show. And I'm sorry, but Stephen McLean was not the right option. And I think you might have mentioned last week, and I do agree with you. I would not be surprised if they actually go back to Tom Wright and say, "You know what? Can you come back? Because this is not working." And you know what? Go to Tom Wright or somebody and say, "Right, you know what? You come in, let Stephen McLean be number 2, let him kind of get a bit more experience because he's not ready to be number 1. Because at the moment, St Johnstone look rudderless. They look like they don't have a clue what they're doing. And unfortunately, you know, last week against Hearts, first game of the season, they were okay defensively, but they offered nothing. They had one chance to Liam Gordon that he missed. But yesterday, Ross County hammered them. You know, they should have won that game comfortably. The only positive I can take if I'm a St Johnstone fan is that only finished 2-0, because that should have been a lot worse.
Yeah, well, that's what I wrote down here, Graham. I wrote beside the score, how good that game finished 2-0. Because, you know,
missed chances by Ross County.
Yeah.
I mean, Simon Murray is a good player, and he was really good at Queen's Park. My worry would be, can he make the step up to the Premier League? Because last week against Celtic, he should score. I think he misses too many chances, and you can't do that in this league. You cannot miss that many chances.
I think, yeah, if Ross was on here tonight, yes, he would say everything that we're saying, aye. But, like, what they're all saying is in football is at least getting that position to make chances, you know, whereas St Johnstone's off it completely. They're not in any position to make the chances. Now, they could be playing till midnight and no have a shot and goal. And I think the more and more it goes on, and I know the next stop is Celtic Park for them in 2 weeks' time, but the more and more it goes on, the less confident you'll be.
I mean, if you're a St Johnstone player right now, you're looking at that thinking, right, we've played Hearts, got beat. We played Ross County, got beat. There should have been a lot more. Then we've got to get Celtic. How do we get anything out of that game? They're going to get hammered again. And I genuinely think, and I know it is very early, and I don't want to disrespect Stephen McLean, I don't think he'll even last till September. I think he looks like, basically for me, it's like Ian Cather all over again, where you brought a guy in that doesn't really know what he's doing. He looks really clueless. He's a nice guy, don't get me wrong. He comes across really well, and you're right to say he's quite softly spoken, but he's just looked devoid of ideas. Other thing as well yesterday, I know we'll maybe touch on the now, but they should have been down to 10 men, because that challenge by Liam Gordon on Danda, how that was not given as a second yellow is an absolute joke.
Yeah. On you go then, Glenn. Take the floor.
I mean, we talk about VAR a lot, but VAR is there for clear and obvious. Now, if Willie Collin can't see that, and I think he should, why on earth is VAR not sent to him? You need to go and look at that again, because that's a really, really poor challenge. There's no attempt to win the ball. Gordon is over the top. He's taken Danda out. He's on a booking already. Now, I know that VAR can't look at second yellows, but that's a red card all day long. That's endangering an opponent, and the fact that Danda's had to go off makes it worse. I'm not surprised because it's Willie Collin, but how on earth that's not a red card is baffling. It's a terrible challenge, and I can't believe he's not got sent off for that.
And I'm sure that's not the first one that we'll speak about this season. But we must move on. The game at Ibrox yesterday, Rangers 4-11 can now, and okay, in paper it might look comfortable, Graham, but in the first half, Rangers weren't at it, albeit they went in 1-0 up at half time. Not a top performance, but they got the win and they got the 3 points. And they've got a difficult game again on Tuesday night in European football. We're having the same conversation as we did last season, Graham, I think, because Rangers are winning. They're not dominating games. Is that a worry?
Potentially. I mean, I was out yesterday, so I had the game on the radio. And for a lot of that game, the Rangers fans were booing that performance. It was only the last 10 minutes when they started to kind of obviously get a few more goals. They put a bit of a gloss on the scoreline. I watched the highlights later on. They dominated the game, as I would expect. But they didn't really look that great. I mean, I thought the boy Dessers missed a load of chances. I mean, he wasn't very popular with Rangers fans. I think Cantwell looked really good. I think when he came on, Matondo made a difference. Danilo got his goal. But they huffed and puffed. I mean, Livingston, for a long part of that game, were well in the game without really creating a lot. They didn't really have a lot of chances in the game.
I think they only won two good chances, Graham. Shinnie had a good chance and Seema had a shot as well.
Yeah, I mean, Livingston were well in the game. I mean, I think I heard David Martindale after the game, and he's like, if you watch that, if you look at that score, you think it's a hammering, but it's not really. And I know where he's coming from. It only looked at hammering in the last 10 minutes when Rangers got their 3 goals. But I don't think they were that great. I mean, a lot of Rangers fans were not happy with the performance. They were delighted with the victory. But I don't think the performance was that great. And again, like I said with Hearts, it's going to take time for players to gel and settle in. But at the moment, I don't think they look that great. I don't think they were great against Servette either on Wednesday. That's going to be a very hard game. And even if they get through that game, they're going to be playing PSV, who are a really good side, a really top side. I think Rangers' chances of getting to the Champions League are very, very slim. And based on that performance yesterday, they need to raise it a few levels, because I don't think they were great yesterday. They dominated the game as I thought they would. They were at home, a lot of possession, but they didn't do a lot with it.
I don't know if you've heard this rumour, Graham, but they're trying to get Morelos back, right? But to be honest with you, I think it would be, like a man down again, because when he was on the team, he wasn't offering much. Okay, maybe score a goal every 5 games or be, a few games. But if you compare him with, Kyogo, obviously they're 2 different players and, 2 different comparisons, if you want to call it like that. But, as you said, Kyogo was in the game today, and then bang, he scored a goal. Morelos wouldn't be in the game, and they had a shot, and they took it wide of the goal. why does Rangers want him back? I do not know, because A, you shouldn't be going back to players that didn't work for you in the first place, and B, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you're going to be down to 10 men most games as well when I lost, because he likes to be sending off.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, I hadn't seen that rumour, but if that's true, then it shows how desperate they are. I mean, the new signings for me, I think Lammers took his goal well, decent finish. Danilo again took his goal well. Seymour scored, but the guy Dessers, I know again, it's going to take time, but he missed a load of chances yesterday. And I think Morelos, for me, at times looked a bit overweight. At times as well, he didn't look like he was kind of. He looked like he was kind of a bit overweight. I can't see them bringing him back. You know, I'd be amazed if they did. But Rangers need for me to be a lot better than they were yesterday, because again, Servette had a couple of decent chances last week, and I said this on the other night as well. A better side would have taken a few goals off Rangers. Now, whether Servette do that on Tuesday, I'm not sure. But Rangers, for me, just don't quite look quite right yet. Now, it's a win. Rangers fans are going away happy they've got 3 points. But they need to be better. Because for a lot of that game yesterday, and as I say, I listened to the radio yesterday, Rangers fans booed a lot of that performance. They were not happy until the last 5-10 minutes when they started getting goals. So they've got a lot of work to do. And I know Michael Beale said that it's going to take time to gel, which it will. But like I said last week, you cannot afford to finish second in Glasgow, because that's not good enough. Rangers have got 3 points. Celtic have got 6 points already. They're playing catch up already. They can't afford to fall any further behind.
Second thing, last, and I suppose it's the Edinburgh as well. If Hearts finish below Hibs or vice versa, it's like, you know, you finish bottom of the league. You know, that's because the way Glasgow and Edinburgh works, and maybe Dundee as well. A quick word about Livingston, Graham. I think on Friday show that David Martindale seems like a different guy now when you listen to him on a Friday, when you hear him speaking about the game. Usually he's upbeat and all that, but now I think it's coming back to bite Livingston because of the financial side as well. And I think they'll do okay this season, but I think they'll still struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I've made no secret of the fact that I think they're going to struggle this season. I really do. When I listened to David Martindale last week talking about the fact that he tried to talk to 6 players and couldn't get them in financially, it's a worry. He does talk a lot about the financial budgets, which I understand. You know, it's difficult to get players to Livingston. But I've already said I think they're going to finish second bottom. I just don't see enough about them going forward. I do think that before the window shuts, Nubly could be away if they get a decent offer. And then it's how you replace him. I don't think he was all right yesterday. I thought he caused a couple of problems, but not enough. I just think they're going to struggle. To try and get players for Livingston is difficult. As I say, I think at times yesterday they were all right, but they didn't really create a lot going forward. They're not going to be judged at games like Celtic Park and Ibrox and games like that, but they've got to be better. And I just think Martindale, for me, does sound deflated already.
But before we finish up, let's run through the women's Premier League. It started today. Spartans 1, Rangers 6, Packet Thistle women 4, Dundee women 0, Aberdeen women 2, Motherwell Aberdeen 3, Motherwell 2. Celtic won 9-0 against Moncro's women. Hamilton Accies 0, Hearts 4. So Mr. Duffy will be happy at that at least. Well, hopefully, yeah. And you'll be happy at this one as well, Graham. Hibs got beat 3-0 for Glasgow City. So there you go.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's the first one. Yeah, exactly. And let's round up the rugby. There was a big game last night and warming up to the World Cup this year. And it was a good game, Graham. I don't know if you saw any of it. France 30, Scotland 27. So it looks as though it was a very, very tight game last night. And I think the World Cup starts in September, October time as well.
Yeah, it does, yeah. But September, I think it is.
So anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry, we were on a bit late tonight. We'll be back to our Euro time next Sunday, hopefully at 5:05. Thanks to Reagan for joining us. Thanks to my Euro wonderful sidekick, Graham, as always. And we'll see you next Friday here on The Locker Room.